Hi, folks. So today is 15th of January, and for this Economic Times newspaper, we have few editorials, and among them, I have identified only one of the article which is relevant for any of the regulatory body examination. So let's go through this. Speak, Mr. Governor, speak. So RBI must communicate to signal it's in charge of things on the currency front. So economic commentators in India, myself included, are a fickle lot. The same bunch of pundits who were lauding the India idea of currency stability as a virtue and indeed as a badge of honor for economy have today quickly turned around to make a list of the gains from a weaker currency as the rupee dived to its lowest against the dollar at 86.582 on Monday, the worst show among Asian currencies. So today what happened? The rupee have dived at the lowest of 86.58 on Monday, and which shows that among the Asian currencies, we are at the lowest. So if export competitiveness were to be guide for the currency management, there is still a long way for the rupee to go. Given that the beginning of the month, the 40 country real effective exchange rate showed that the rupee was overvalued by 8%. Only part of this would have corrected by now. So it shows that whatever the export competition we are having with the countries and the currency management, so it still has a long way to go. And in the month of this January only, in the beginning, we saw that the 40 country real effective exchange rate, which shows that how much goods and services we are trading in terms of exports, shows that the rupee is overvalued by 8%. So one should not have a problem with this. After all, John Maynard Keynes famously said that I change my mind when the facts do. So, however, when we armchair wallahs need not cringe in embarrassment, we should have a heart of companies and households that face the brunt of what feels like a quick and largely unanticipated regime change. So exporters might get a leg up, but think of those who borrowed, because since depreciation of rupee is happening, so exporters will get a benefit. So might get a leg up. But think of those who borrowed in dollars in the hope that India's massive forex reserves will serve as the umbrella when bad luck poured down on the currency market. So think of importers for whom pricing in a closet or 86 exchange rate to the dollar would have been the most extreme of contrarian views just 6 months ago. So think of the lakhs of parents who send their kids abroad. Think also of the foreign investors who bought stocks and bonds who find their dollar return eroded by the rupees fall. So since uh, the rupee is falling against dollar, so the author shows his concerns about the different uh, members of the society. They could be parents, they could be foreign investors, and such. So think of the lakhs of parents. Okay. So it is easy to wag one's finger and say that all currency exposure should have been hedged, which means that it should have been halted. But however, RBI's repetitive actions to defend the currency against odds might have fostered an aversion among importers and borrowers to cover all their bases. The realized volatility of currencies, a common gauge of how tightly a currency is managed, might help buttress my case. Reuters estimate the rupees at 2% of 2024. For the Malaysian ringgit and the Thai baht, it was four times that. Thus, one should not be surprised by RBI's estimate of an unhedged external borrowing percentage of a good 34% of the total in its December financial stability report. This is a basic human psychology, not a moral failing. A perceived regime change of this kind, that it must be emphasized that it's only still a perception, where we move from an obsession with keeping the currency tight range bound to a freer look no hands approach is bound to entail significant transition cost for economic agents. So it says that we have to emphasize on the perception only, wherein the obsession of keeping the currency in the range which is very tight to a freer look, no hands approach. Okay, if commentators miss this point, they are not only being insensitive to those affected adversely, but they are also missing an advantage and the headwind for the economy in the short term. So one way to mitigate this transition cost is to make the RBI stance on the currency clear. Generalities like the let the rupee find its own level will not suffice, right? Because the RBI or the government, they both have to intervene. So RBI have to intervene in the rupee value, which is getting lower or which is getting diving down with against the dollar. So the messaging will have to be more specific. Will the central bank now chase competitiveness, abandoning the benefits of low volatility So instead, will Governor Sanjay Malhotra seek a balance at some point? Is that best achieved by complementing RBI's current forex market intervention by some verbal intervention, not uncommon in currency management, right? So RBI might want to re-emphasize the massive amount of forex reserve it still holds. Roughly $640 billion is the forex reserves with RBI right now. While that is down from its peak, it covers 90% of all external debt. So during the infamous taper tantrum of 2013 that brought the rupee down, it was roughly 70%. So short-term borrowings, hot money of the debt world, were declining over 2024. There are multiple indicators that the nation's currency manager can use to signal that it's in charge of things. Let's not create a pseudo crisis when the underlying fundamentals are healthy by choosing not to communicate. So it is just telling to the central bank of the country to communicate effectively. So what its stance would be, what its next goals would be. Just talking might not entirely help in checking the rupee's fall, nor would it be desirable to go against the tide of a rising dollar that is bringing all other currencies down. So it shows that the dollar is strengthening rather than rupee's value is diving down. It shows that the dollar is much strengthening now. However, it might help tackle the uncertainty premium that investors are currently seeking from all Indian financial markets, dragging them down in the process. So it will also help economic agents get a sense of how much the transition costs for them and what they should do going forward. So to be fair to RBI, its efforts of the previous year to stabilize the currency did help in some ways. In fact, its fight against excessive appreciation when the momentum was in favor of emerging markets actually helped competitiveness among other things. Stability also played a role in checking the imported inflation. The main problem was that it took things to an extreme. So constantly seeking a static ideal level for the price of any financial variable, come what may, has a dark side to it. It goes against the spirit of the market and mechanisms like trading and speculations that are critical to health. One is not calling for a move to extreme laissez-faire, which means that the government should not interfere. It is not telling that. Instead, it should be like the RBI should intervene in the currency management, and the currency market should be allowed to reflect to some degree where the demand and supply will play.